I work as a social worker for Adult Protective Services. My job is stepping into situations other people ignore. Severe neglect, hoarding, financial exploitation. Usually, it's a distant relative moving in to help and draining the bank accounts. Then one Tuesday afternoon, a file landed on my desk. Anonymous tip from a neighbor. An elderly woman hadn't been seen outside her home for 6 months. Her pension checks were still being cashed by a younger man claiming to be her grandson and a woman claiming to be her daughter. But according to county records, she had no living children and no grandchildren. I drove out to her property. What I found inside that house nearly cost me my life. And I'm only telling this story now because I made a backup. My job teaches you to trust your instincts when something feels wrong. That Tuesday, everything felt wrong from the start. The referral was sparse but alarming. An elderly widow, living alone at the far edge of the county line. She used to maintain a large vegetable garden, but it had completely overgrown with weeds. The neighbor said her pension checks were still being cashed at the local bank by a younger man claiming to be her grandson, and occasionally by a woman claiming to be her daughter. County records showed the old woman's only daughter had passed away decades ago. She had no living children and no grandchildren. I printed the documents, grabbed my clipboard, and drove nearly an hour. The town gave way to sparse rural development, then dense forest. The road narrowed into a cracked dirt path. Trees grew close to the shoulder, their branches blocking out the late afternoon sunlight. The house sat at the very end, right against the tree line. The forest seemed to lean over the property, casting long shadows across the rotting front porch. The vegetable garden was dead, choked by briars and vines. I parked in the gravel driveway and sat in the silence. No birds. The air was heavy. Still, I walked up to the porch and knocked firmly, announcing my title and agency. No movement. I raised my fist and knocked again. But before my knuckles hit the wood, the door swung open smoothly. Standing in the doorway were two people, a woman in her mid-40s, a young man in his early 20s, both dressed in remarkably clean clothes, floral blouse and press slacks, gray sweater and dark jeans. At first glance, ordinary, but a deep, primal wave of unease washed over me. My brain registered something wrong before I could articulate what it was. It was their posture. They stood side by side, perfectly straight, arms limp at their sides, not leaning, not shifting weight, entirely motionless. "Good afternoon," I said. "I'm a social worker. I'm here to conduct a wellness check on the homeowner. May come in?" The woman smiled. "Good afternoon. You are here to conduct a wellness check." She repeated my sentence back to me, but the cadence was off. "Yes," I said, gripping my clipboard tighter. "I need to speak with her directly. Are you family?" The young man smiled. "We are her family. I am the grandson. She is the daughter. We provide excellent care." I forced myself to maintain eye contact. Standard procedure requires me to speak with her in private. It will only take a few minutes. I stepped forward, pushing my weight toward the threshold. People usually step back. They didn't move. Statues in the doorway. "She is resting," the daughter said. "She does not wish to speak in private." "I'm afraid it's not optional," I said firmly. "If you refuse access, I'll have to return with law enforcement." They turned their heads slowly to look at each other. Then the grandson said, "You may speak with her." They stepped back. I entered the house. The house was clean, but sterile. No clutter, no personal items, no mail. It looked like a stage set. "She is in the bedroom," the daughter said, pointing a stiff finger down a narrow hallway. I walked with my back to the wall, keeping them in my peripheral vision. They stood in the living room, watching me go. I reached into the hall and pushed open the bedroom door. Curtains drawn, only a small bedside lamp. Lying in the center of a large bed was the elderly woman. She was severely emaciated, skin stretched tight over bones, paper thin, heavily bruised. Her eyes were sunken wide, darting frantically around the room. I stepped inside and quickly pulled the door shut behind me, engaged the push-button lock on the knob. Flimsy, but it gave me a moment. I walked to the side of her bed. "Ma'am, I'm a social worker. I'm here to make sure you're safe. Can you hear me?" Her chest heaved. She opened her mouth. Only a dry rasp came out. She raised a trembling, bruised hand and pointed weakly to my clipboard. I unclipped the metal clasp and handed her the stack of blank forms and my pen. She grabbed it desperately. Her hand shook violently as she pressed the ballpoint against the paper. She wrote so hard the ink tore through the top sheet. Then she dropped the pen and pushed the clipboard back at my chest. Her eyes were wide with terror, pleading. I looked down, written in jagged, frantic letters. They aren't my family. They came from the woods. A heavy, freezing chill ran down my spine. Then a sharp knock echoed against the bedroom door. Is the wellness check complete? The daughter's voice, incredibly close, like her mouth was pressed against the wood. I moved to the center of the room. I need a few more minutes. We're still completing paperwork. She is tired. The grandson's voice said from the hallway, she needs a rest. You must leave the bedroom now. The brass doorknob slowly began to turn. It hit the push-button lock and stopped. Silence. Suffocating. Then the doorknob twisted violently in the other direction. The cheap metal rattled aggressively against the doorframe. They were testing the lock. Open the door, the daughter said. Her pleasant tone was gone. We provide excellent care. You must leave. I knew. If I opened that door, I wasn't walking out alive. Neither was the old woman. I looked around. A single large sash window on the far wall, facing the front yard. My car. I rushed the window, slammed my hand against the wooden frame to break the paint seal, hauled the lower pane upward. It slid open with a loud groan. The doorknob rattled furiously. Open the door. Open the door. Open the door. Voices outside chanting in perfect, terrifying unison. Heavy thuds began slamming against the wood. The door bowed inward with every strike. I ran back to the bed. I'm getting you out of here. I whispered. Don't make a sound. Hold on to me. I slid one arm under her knees, the other around her back, hoisted her upward. She weighed almost nothing, like a bundle of dry branches. She wrapped her thin arms around my neck, burying her face in my shoulder. The bedroom door cracked. A long splinter would fracture down the center of the panel. I threw my leg over the windowsill, ducked my head, and slid through, dropping onto the overgrown grass. The impact jarred my knees, but I kept my footing. I turned and sprinted toward my car. I reached the driver's door, hit the unlock button, threw the old woman into the back seat, slammed the door, jumped in, shoved the key into the ignition. Engine roared. I threw the transmission into reverse and looked up through the windshield. The front door of the house was wide open, standing on the rotting porch, illuminated by the fading afternoon light. The daughter and the grandson, side by side, motionless, arms limp, faces locked in that same empty smile, watching me. I slammed my foot on the gas. Tires spun against the gravel. The car launched backward. I whipped the steering wheel, aligned with the dirt road, shifted into drive, and floored it. The heavy tree line blurred past my windows. I checked the rearview mirror. The house grew smaller. The figures on the porch didn't move. I let out a shaking breath, glanced at the back seat. The old woman was trembling, eyes squeezed shut. We're okay, I said. I'm taking you straight to the hospital. You're safe now. I looked back at the road, checked the mirror again. Empty. Then a flicker of movement above the road. The tree canopy. I saw the grandson. He stepped off a massive oak branch, 40 feet in the air, bent his knees, launched himself forward. The physics were wrong. He sailed through the air faster than my speeding car. He cleared the distance between the trees, and my rear bumper soared directly over the roof of my vehicle. A heavy shadow passed over the windshield. Then he landed on the asphalt directly in front of my moving car. The impact should have shattered his legs. He fell from an impossible height, but he didn't stumble. He landed perfectly on his feet. Less than a second later, a second shadow dropped from the canopy. The daughter landed right beside him. Same impossible, silent landing. They stood shoulder to shoulder, blocking the narrow road. I slammed both feet on the brake. Tires locked. Car skidded violently. We slid to a halt less than 10 feet away from them. Dust settled around the hood. I sat frozen. They hadn't flinched. The smiles were gone, replaced by a cold, flat expression of mild annoyance. They walked toward my car. The daughter raised her hand, tapped her knuckles gently against the driver's side window. Lower the window politely, she said, voice muffled but hollow. I didn't move. My mind raced. I couldn't reverse. The road was too narrow, ditches too deep. If I tried to run them over, based on what I just saw, I doubted the car would stop them. I rolled the window down exactly 2 inches. What do you want? I demanded. The grandson leaned down, eyes level with the gap. You must leave the old woman. She belongs to us. Open the doors and walk away, or we will kill you. Flat, objective. If you touch this car, I'll call the police. I shot back, gripping my phone. I'll have every deputy out here in 10 minutes. The daughter made a sound that was supposed to be a laugh. The police do not matter. You should know by now that a normal human does not stand a chance in front of alpha humans like us. Alpha humans. The term sounded ridiculous, but from her mouth, deeply horrifying. We can pull you through this glass, the grandson added. We can break your bones. We can kill anyone who comes here. We can leave you alive, broken, and no one will ever believe what you say. They will say you lost your mind in the woods. He was right. If I survived and told the police people jumped 50 feet out of a tree, I'd be committed. No investigation. I needed leverage. I looked at his unblinking eyes, tightened my grip on the steering wheel, forced a cold glare into my expression. You might be able to kill me, I said, voice flat, but you can't kill a server. The grandson tilted his head, first micro-expression I'd seen. I pointed to the top center of my windshield, behind the rear-view mirror. Do you see that black box? That's a high-definition, wide-angle dash camera. It's been recording since I pulled into your driveway. The daughter slowly turned to look at it. It recorded you standing on the porch. It recorded you landing on the asphalt without breaking your legs. It is recording you right now. I leaned closer to the gap in the window, and my agency doesn't use local storage. For social worker safety, that camera streams a live, encrypted feed directly to the county government servers. The footage is already saved. It's out of this car. If you kill me, when I fail to check in, my supervisor will pull the feed. They will see exactly what you are, and they won't send local police. They will send the federal government, and they will dissect you in a laboratory to find out what makes an alpha human tick. Silence. The grandson and daughter looked at each other. The rigidity in their posture faltered. For the first time, genuine uncertainty. I'm offering you a deal, I said. You step away from this car. You let me and the old woman drive away right now. In exchange, I go straight to the county office. I access the primary server. I permanently delete the entire recording. I say nothing to the police. You go back to your woods, and nobody ever comes looking for you. The daughter looked back at me, expression deeply annoyed, genuine frustration. You will erase the record, she stated. I will erase it from the main server. I promised. The grandson stepped back. We accept the deal, but understand this. We will watch. We will make sure you commit to it. If the record is seen, we will find you. We have a deal, I said. They turned and walked to the edge of the road. Without a sound, they leaped upward, disappearing into the thick, dark canopy. I didn't wait. Rolled up the window, hit the accelerator, drove to the highway at dangerous speeds. I drove straight to the county hospital, carried the old woman into the emergency room, told the attending physician she required immediate protective custody. Then I drove to my agency office. I went to the IT department and invoked a HIPAA privacy violation, told the administrator my dash camera had inadvertently recorded a highly sensitive, unclothed medical emergency, and the footage was sitting on the main server. The threat of a massive county lawsuit made him panic. He logged into the secure terminal and gave me the keyboard to locate and wipe the specific file. I deleted the primary video from the network, exactly as we agreed, but I made a hard copy first. Saved it to my own encrypted flash drive right before hitting delete. I am writing this now, sitting in my locked apartment. Lights on. I'm leaving this story here as a dead man switch. If they are watching, if they are tracking my digital footprint to ensure I keep my end of the bargain, I want them to read this very carefully. I kept the video. I kept a record of the address. If I see you standing in the tree line outside my window, or if you ever try to pull another vulnerable person out of this county, I will publish the evidence of your existence to every network on this planet. That story was posted on Reddit's r/nosleep. Real or fiction? You tell me. But I've worked in social services, and the scariest part isn't the alpha humans. It's how easily a vulnerable person can disappear without anyone noticing. If you've ever had a wellness check that felt wrong or a case that still keeps you up at night, share in the comments. Like and subscribe for more Reddit horror stories every week. And if you ever drive out to a house at the end of a dirt road, maybe keep your own dash camera running. See you in the next one.